Welcome to the only wrestling podcast that covers the WWE developmental system from its inception to modern day. From OVW to MCW, the HWA, Deep South, FCW, and much more. Hosted by Brian Asbury and Mortimer Blankenship. Now let's dive into what could have been, what should have been. Welcome to Developmentally Speaking.
Hey, before we get in this episode, can you do us a favor? Will you go ahead and subscribe to the channel?
Will you ring that notification bell?
And if you would, give this video a like. Well, enough of that mumbo jumbo. Let's get to the episode.
Let's talk developmentally speaking, glow up, and connecting through wrestling.
Hey everybody, I'm Morty.
And I'm Brian.
And on today's episode of Developmentally Speaking, we have the Hammer himself, Charles Evans. Charles, how's it going?
Pretty good. How are you? How are you guys doing?
Doing good.
Awesome.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much for coming on the show. But, you know, time is money, so I want to go right into it for you. What made you want to get into professional wrestling?
So, I grew up watching wrestling as a kid because of my parents.
Mm-hmm.
My parents, when they were in high school, they started dating in high school. They would go watch the wrestling shows, and at the time, it was still segregated. So this was in the early '60s when my parents were in high school.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how they became familiar with certain black talent that would come to South Carolina, which is where I'm originally from, Florence, South Carolina. Okay. Um, I grew up watching, which was Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling. So my parents, once they got married and started had my brother and I, um, they would watch wrestling on Saturdays, or either go to the live events and drive like maybe 2 to 2.5 hours. From what my mom used to tell me,
Mm-hmm.
which would be like on a Tuesday night, and go down to drive up to Charlotte from Florence, and uh, go to the National Guard Armory,
Mm-hmm.
where they would have live shows, and so that was my entry into beginning to watch wrestling as a kid. So I was a child watching it, and up until so that was that.
That's pretty cool.
Because of my parents, man. So basically because of my parents.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they so they influenced me into watching it. So they didn't
That's
force
awesome.
me, but yeah.
What drew them into wrestling? Did they ever say what?
Yeah, actually, my mom, man, she would say how uh, she loved how like certain guys would pretend to be like she didn't get what was going on,
Mm-hmm.
but I'd explain it to her later. Once I got into the business, um, she loved the fact that how she could believe that this guy, like this claw, this punch, or this he had that power punch, or he had that claw. So if
Oh,
if
man.
Doctor X got that claw on you,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I'm telling you, man, she would say that she had her coworkers, some of her coworkers would ride to the shows with her, and just as a kid hearing her say that, um, um, as a kid made me want to get into it
Mm-hmm.
eventually at some point in time. I mean, this was long before what it became, even when I broke in. Even
Mm-hmm.
it was much, so much more plain and not as much extra unnecessary antics as they do as
Mm-hmm.
like now. So yeah, so you could tell a story, and in my mind, she would say how she said no. She would say like, well, 2 months ago in Lake City, South Carolina, well, Blackjack Mulligan, he blah blah blah, and so she could follow the story. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? So, and my dad too. So, and so JYD was his man. So, and so that influenced me. I hope that answered your question. I can
Oh
get
Yeah.
into
yeah.
it when I get
Absolutely.
started.
I can relate. I got into wrestling because both of my parents were fans.
Yeah.
My dad growing up in Indiana was Dick the Bruiser and Coco. I'm sorry, Bobo Brazil. My
Yeah,
mom,
yeah. Bobo.
my mom was was a fan of Coco Beware and Hacksaw Jim Duggan, and I grew up loving wrestling because my dad watched it all the time, and I would just sit there and watch it with him. And um,
Yeah.
I grew up during the WCW WWF Monday Night Wars. That was what I grew up watching, and then I found out that there was this local wrestling that was only 45 minutes down the road called Ohio Valley Wrestling, and that's when
Yeah.
life changed for me. Um, because I watched it on Channel 7 every Saturday. It was just awesome. And then they would come to town, and that was what I liked. Um,
And wrestling
so
back then, those crowds are completely different than what they are now. Like that was real to
Uh,
them. Damn it.
it's the audience what they're getting fed now is different.
Hmm.
Um, it's different in it, but it's up to the talent. I mean, I'll get into that later, man. But it's up to the well, actually, I say it now. I was taught this when I got to OVW. It's not up. You have a promoter and a booker, and but at the end of the day, it's not up to the promoter or the booker. It's up to the talent because the talent is the actual booker and promoter
Hmm.
via Al Snow. You know what I mean? So
Hmm.
I had to learn that, and
Absolutely.
so yeah, so you pretty much we tell them what to do. That's what it used to be like,
Hmm.
um, and that was kind of taught in OVW, and we started learning that how to do that by what you're doing inside the ring.
Hmm.
You know, I know I've got off subject on that, but OVW is where, as we know, others or the stars who guys who became major stars.
Hmm.
Well, that was their foundation.
mhm.
Now OVW was where once I once I got there, I was able to get fine tuned, man, and start really learning. You
Hmm.
know, really learning. You know,
So, when you made the decision to get into professional wrestling, how did you get into professional wrestling?
yeah. Okay, so I was in the military at the time. I was in the army at the time, um, and I was stationed in Fort Hood, Texas. And SmackDown was in Austin, Texas. And a year before that, I was trying to. I think the internet. Actually, what it was, the internet was kind of kind of came out. So it was
Mhm.
kind of like I think it was like 98, 99, and
Mhm.
uh, Shawn Michaels School had opened in San Antonio. Um, but you found out through the internet, which, like I said again, it was just kind of coming out good,
Hmm.
and of course, wrestling schools and letting you know what was going on for if you want to get into a school.
Mhm.
Um, but the thing was, I couldn't. It was too far from the military installation, so I couldn't leave like that. I had to have a pass.
Right.
So, and at the time, you see, I'm glad you said that because at the time when I broke in, it wasn't like it is now. Like Hollywood and social, the world system, they're more easygoing towards the military, so they're more open.
Hmm.
So the military basically will let a guy be a service member and still have a contract, uh, like UFC fighting.
Hmm.
So you can have some UFC fighters under contract and still in the military. Well, when I
Right.
was in the army, that was
Right.
no, you know what I'm saying.
Hmm.
So which was um, 99. So I had to get to what it was. That's all. And so I realized I couldn't go to San Antonio; it was too far. So, luckily enough, there was a school named school in Austin on the other side of Austin. It was Ivan Putski's school of pro wrestling, Polish Hammer. So, I called and got some information. And but when I got there to start training, Ivan moved to another state, and someone else took over that he had trained. So they started the guy by the name of J.L. Murillo was like the trainer there at the school at the first school in Austin.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that was my first entry into like getting into the business.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Um, but after, we only received like the minimum amount of training, so we didn't learn too much. Basically, we didn't learn too much.
Yeah. So basically, just the basics. Did you learn bumps and ropes and
Yeah,
stuff
well,
like
see,
that?
that's the thing about it. We learned well. See, with okay, I'm gonna break it down for each trainer. See, I had a lot of trainers, man, and I
Okay.
wrote my trainers down. I'll just let you guys know.
Okay.
Yeah, so in different time period before I got to OVW, I was around other established trainers.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Just teach me little bits here and there.
Mm-hmm.
So then when I got to OVW and trying to put it all together. So
Yeah.
yeah, so when I was there and at the first school at Ivan Putski's, we learned the basics: tackle, bump, tackle, body slams, hip tosses, but not getting taught really how to put it together.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So uh, it was kind of like you get okay. We had like I think we had like about 3 or 4 weeks of training, and uh, I started out with actually Lance Archer and I started out a long time ago, man. And I saw him at AEW last year, and it was so cool to see him.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, it was a moment because he and I know what it's like when we first started. Yeah, and we started out, I think, about a week apart at Ivan Putski's in Jay Amarillo's school down there in Austin. So after that, we started doing we had like what would you call like a student show,
Mm-hmm.
um, which without a lot of structure, you're just in there just doing a lot of move, just you're just wrestling, but you don't know why you're doing what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So that happened a lot. And then after once I got see, I was still but the thing was I was breaking the rules, man. I was still active duty in the army.
Mm-hmm.
So and I was at the time I was a sergeant. So
Wow.
this is before we had to go to Iraq, and I got promoted to staff sergeant. So as a sergeant, I have a squad. So I would go to wrestling practice and get beat up,
Mhm.
and come to formation Monday morning. And well, what happened to you, Sergeant Alfred? Because I'll be at wrestling practice. I couldn't tell him that,
Man.
so I had to keep that secret
Yeah.
until I was able to get honorably till I could get my
Right.
discharge. So, um, and let's see, it was then after Austin, 9/11 happened. 2000, September 11th.
Mm-hmm.
Well, at that time, that's when I found out about Ohio OVW via the internet. Well, I
Mm-hmm.
was trying to transfer from Fort Hood to Fort Knox, Kentucky, so I
Mm-hmm.
can go to OVW,
Yeah.
right? Well,
Mm-hmm.
9/11 happened, so I never got that. So I had to go to Iraq. So when I came back from Iraq, that's when I went down to Dory Funk's in Ocala, Florida. Dory Funk Jr. at the conservatory.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, got some good solid training there. And then after conservatory, I finished up my time in the army. And then well, actually before that, I went to a tryout in uh, in Louisville, OVW,
Mm-hmm.
and made the tryout and got a invite back from training the intermediate class. So, but I had to wait like I think I had 60 days left on my in the army.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
So once I took my leave, I took my leave to go
Mm-hmm.
to the camp and to see if I could to make it.
Right.
So that because based off what the training I did have, which wasn't much, but I had enough. I got trained by Funk enough to help me
Right.
understand what to
Mm-hmm.
do. So um, and that's where I met Dr. Tom Pritchard and Rip and Danny and man, so many guys were there that day. Um, as trainer wise,
Mm-hmm.
Oh
and
yeah.
so once I got the invite, the call from I think Danny called me and say you would like to have you come train with us in the intermediate class, and said okay, I have like 2 more 60 days left in the army, then I'll be done, then I can move. So, but that's when I got to OVW.
So, so you moved, you finally got to OVW, you started training. Who did you train with? Like, who was your trainer? Was it Rip? Was it Dr. Tom?
Well, it was Rip. My
Yeah.
first trainer was Rip. Okay, and well, see, I had met Dr. Tom.
Mm-hmm.
I knew Dr. Tom because I was in Florida with Dory Funk for a little while, and
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Tom was down there when I happened to go to Dory Funk school for a couple of weeks on my leave time. I would take leave, man. When I was in the army, I
Mm-hmm.
would take my personal leave time to go train in wrestling on the kayfabe side. So I was still, you
mm-hmm.
know, long before it became a thing to do now. Not hating, but I'm saying, you know. So and so I remembered when I saw, oh man, that's Tom.
mm-hmm.
So I'm like, what's going on? So and I automatically knew, okay, I remember what he said, the basic of how to position your body to take the headlock takeover, arm drag and receive it, give it, take it. So when I got to OVW at the camp, we were doing some drills, and that's where I met Rip.
Hmm.
And but I mean, let me fast forward. But when I moved to Louisville
Mm-hmm.
and got to Rip's class, Rip, I mentioned to Rip about when I was in Florida and Dory Funks with Dr. Tom down there. So it really wasn't once you could get past Rip just yelling at you, but the fundamentals Rip was saying,
Mm-hmm.
it was just like that. Like for like,
He's got his own
oh yeah,
special way of teaching,
yeah,
talking.
yeah, oh yeah, yeah. But but me fresh coming, me at the time I was a staff sergeant, leaving, I was a little bit older, so I wasn't like a younger guy.
mm-hmm.
Right.
20, no, I was 31 when I got to OVW. So, but the, the first trainer was Rip, and then once before I got my contract, I moved up to Al's class,
Okay.
the advanced class.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as I moved up, that's when I got signed.
So how was that feeling? You've worked hard. You've went. You've trained at different places. You're making it your way up, and then you finally get that contract.
You want to know what that feeling was like?
Yeah, like you
Okay,
worked
yeah.
hard. You
So
got it.
yeah, man. So I was I was on my way from I was let's see, I was working at Chili's and living at the Suburban Lodge,
Mm-hmm.
and I was on my way from the gym coming from LAC, and I had gotten to know Nova really good.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Nova, actually, let me tell you about Nova. Nova, before I got before when I was in the intermediate class, he would come up to me and say stuff to me, and I was like, "That's Simon Dean, man," you know. So, and he would come in the come walking in like he regular dude.
mm-hmm.
And I thought it was so cool, man. Like, man, a guy who come from the same ring and
Mm-hmm.
can be in Japan or be at wherever Vince wants you to be, and still come back to OVW and still help out.
Yeah.
And this is when I was in the intermediate class. So I really didn't talk to him. I didn't know him like that, but he would always come up to me and talk to me. I didn't know I didn't know what was going on at the time. But fast forward when I was, he was already, he had already taken over for Tommy Dreamer.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
So um, I was coming from LAC, and nobody gave me his number. So I was used to, I didn't mind. So if I needed to talk to him, I could. So I could kind of talk to him whether I was on the contract before, even before I was on the contract. You see, I didn't understand what was going on at the time. So when he called me, and I said, okay, so it's 203. I saw the number, it's Nova. And he said, he was calling me Hammer then. He said, because I said, hey, Hammer, with the Jersey accent, hey, Hammer, it's Nova, brother. And then, he said, how would you like to work for World Wrestling Entertainment? I was like, what? I was like, let me pull over. I was like, I'm driving. So it was just like yesterday, man. And speaking of that, my mom, well, both my parents in heaven now, but my mom, she kept my first contract when I sent it to her, and she put it in the photo album. So it's I've had a couple of them, but she kept the original one.
Hmm.
So, but anyway, so Nova called me, man, and I pulled over, and I was like, okay, I'm not hired yet, so I can't be getting fired. So I'm thinking, the office is calling me. I don't have a contract. Is someone ribbing me? Because guys would do that a lot. Hey, this is John O'Nice. Hey, this is da 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 da. This is
Mhm.
Nova, man. All that kind of crazy stuff, right? So, and I'm sitting there, and he goes, okay, man. I said, no, this is for real, man. So it was kind of a surreal moment when I
Mhm.
sat there for like about a minute, and he was talking. And I promise you, I could hear him talking. I was like, at the time, my parents were still alive, and the only thing I could think of, man, I'm gonna call my mom right now. I'm gonna call. I'm gonna
Mhm.
call her. I'm gonna call her, and I did, and I'm a dad too, and they were happy for me. So so, but that was I think it was maybe maybe a Tuesday, could have
Mhm.
been possibly, and because I just gone to Memphis, and man, I was working with Eugene and Hacksaw and Jim Duggan in a tag match with Derek King from Memphis. And
Wow.
I think, yeah, man, I didn't like when I was there, and it started happening so fast because I was in Rip's class, and then once I Rip's blessing, if you will, graduated
Mhm.
to Al's class. As soon as I got to Al's class, I was still working at Chili's, man, and um, Raw was coming in and out, SmackDown was coming in and out, and actually it was me, Santino, God rest his soul, Beast, Shad Gaspard. We
Mhm.
drove to Cincinnati to go to my first SmackDown, and I just got to L's class, and then the next week, Raw came, and I was in my first tag match, my first WWE, my first ever WWE match was
Mhm.
a tag match,
That's awesome.
and then I went back to class, went to work at Chili's. Next thing you know, Nova called me, said, and then John Laurinaitis showed up that Thursday.
Wow.
It was myself, Santino. We got signed the same day.
That's cool.
Wow. That's
Morris,
yeah.
if you will, Santino
Eh,
Morello. Uh
I,
huh.
I, I like how you mentioned thinking, is this a rib? Because I feel like
Yeah.
every wrestler we talk to says when something does when they get that call,
Oh yeah.
you automatically think it's a rib, and that kind of just speaks volumes as to what kind of like the brotherhood of being in wrestling is, because we're always
Yeah.
pulling pranks on each other, and it's just something that you know you, it isn't a bad thing to think, man, is this real or not? Because you because you've just had so many good times with with your wrestling family that this could be a prank.
Yeah, that was one of the first things. Whoop, okay now. That's one of the first things I was thinking. Like, man. So, let me see. Yeah, so at Six Flags, guys were ribbon guys and making prank calls and taking it too far, and
Mhm.
um, I was like, okay, guys, you need to cut this out. This is not. This is. We don't need to get personal because you have guys who have families and
Hmm.
children and kids and from the West Coast that trying to move to Kentucky. You can't be playing games like that, and you don't want someone calling their wife, say, "Hey, babe, I got signed and it's a joke in the rib," you know.
Mhm.
So, I mean, yeah, I mean, like I can go, man, but so once what really settled in was when the uh the FedEx package came
Yeah.
and it had my name on it. It said World Wrestling Entertainment. I pulled that bad baby out. So boy, yeah, yeah. I still have it. It's in my living room. You know.
That's awesome.
Um. Yeah. So that's kind of how I got signed. But well, actually, I need to tell you guys, man. See, I worked with Jerry Lawler.
Mhm.
Um. Like again, see, I was as far as learning what OVW was doing for me,
Mhm.
or as far as placing me with who they wanted me to work with to help get me signed. Um. I worked with Jerry Lawler. Jerry Lawler um, told me in the match to no sell his DDT by the power driver.
Mhm.
And I was like, what?
What? Whoa! What?
I
Wait,
swear,
what?
I'm not lying. It's Kentucky King of Six Flags because the guys who were getting the rub have stars come
Yeah,
down and work with. You know what I mean?
the
Mhm.
Summer
So,
Sizzler series.
huh?
The Summer Sizzler series.
Yes, yes, yes. So during the match, you know what I mean? I'm bop bop getting my boom 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 on him. And he goes, okay. No, I mean he was starting to show a little bit of comeback.
Hmm.
And of course, this is a when I was totally learning. I learned so much that one match I had with him, man. He won one match. He gave me so much, and when he told me to no sell the power driver, and I was like, again, is he ripping me?
Yeah.
Because Danny was messing with me, before the match,
Yeah.
just said, all right, Hammer, man, Lawler heard you was real stiff and all this and all that. I was like, man, come on, man. I'm that mean. I'm not, man, come on, don't do that to me. Uh, so in the match, he told me that. So I realized after the match regardless if of course he went over.
Mhm.
The fact that I didn't have to sell his moneymaker, man. He didn't
Right.
have
Mhm.
to give that to me like that. I didn't realize that until I was in Japan. I'm not Japan. Well, I did go to Japan, but I was in Puerto Rico working, drawing money, well, making money with Carlos, and I promise you, man, that's when it hit me like that's why. Sometimes you have to go elsewhere
Mhm.
to, for the light bulb to hit about something in another place.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
And I promise you, man, I haven't got a chance. I think I don't think I've seen Lawless since then, but and I remember how I felt when I didn't have to sell it, right?
Mhm.
Right.
So as I get ready to get on him, like, okay, get on him. And as soon as the psychology was, as soon as I got on, no soul, as soon as I got on him, he started firing up. He was teaching me.
Mhm.
And the way we went.
That's
And
awesome.
boy,
That's
I tell you,
awesome.
man, yeah, man. So as brothers we do, we will help each other out or try to not help each other out sometimes. And
Yeah.
I tell you, man, and so uh him doing that and then that's when um Raw and SmackDown the deal was happening there. And
Mhm.
then boom, that's when it came, man. Um for us getting the offer.
Just yeah, so you just had event after event after event, and boom, you have that
Yeah,
that I've heard them say strap the rocket onto you, but that had to be how that felt, like
yeah, it
man,
did. Yeah,
yeah,
it was coming out of nowhere, and
mhm,
Rip was like a Rip would always tell me, you got to bust your ass, you got to bust your
Mm-hmm.
ass, keep it shut up, you know what I'm saying, and you'll go sport, you'll go far,
yeah,
and believe it or not, just because you don't become a main money draw for the major company, that doesn't mean you can't go draw elsewhere
right,
Mm-hmm.
and still be in the game, if you will.
Yeah.
hmm
You know, national or international, it's up to you.
So you did time in OVW, and then did you go to FCW for a while?
Yes, sir.
What
Let me tell
what's
you
the
about that.
yeah, two different
Okay,
worlds.
I'm 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 not gonna pull no punches. I'm not gonna lie to you about that. Everybody has their own opinion about FCW.
Mm-hmm.
Charles the Hammer Evans has his own opinion about FCW.
And what would that opinion be?
This grown man right here, okay? I'm not a kid no more,
Mm-hmm.
but well, okay, so all right. I was a part of the movement when we left Louisville to go down to Florida,
Mm-hmm.
to Brandon, Florida, to the bar to start
Mm-hmm.
doing our shows. All right.
hmm
Okay, you guys know the term. Well, Brad. Well, you guys know. Uh, that was throwing shit against the wall to see what
Mm-hmm.
sticks.
yeah,
I'm not lying. I'm not lying because you see, I don't have no words about telling the truth about this, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad I'm. That's why I wanted to say on my last time I was just on the podcast. You see, when we went to FCW, okay, as soon as we got there, the first thing from Laurinaitis was this. All right, we only got blah 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 spots. We only got sunset spots. Immediately, you saw dissension.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody that was tight and over. As God's my witness. As soon as we got down to Tampa, because before we left Louisville, we started to learn. We finally got it. What's the gimmick of the match? What's the business of the match? You don't need to do all this crazy in between spots. Get the match over, get the business over. Boom, draw money. We
Mm-hmm.
took that mentality down to FCW. All right, we had to be in that bar, which was a digression of where we came from.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Eventually, we started with putting the FCW building together. See, I'm glad you guys asked me this because when I look at the roster, I don't see my picture on there. I don't see I don't see things that are on there. I'm thinking, well, if I'm on your video, if my face is on your video, if I'm on one of your magazines and as a with Kurt Hennig, I mean Axel,
Mm-hmm.
then why do you not have why am I not in there? Because if I was on the contract, which I still have the contract,
Mm-hmm.
when we went to move down there for the very first FCW show, as in OVW Deep South combined, the very first one,
Mm-hmm.
um, after guys had already debuted on ECW. See, it was see, man. So okay, basically we had we had guys who uh, one minute we had everybody that was there under contract.
Mm-hmm.
Then we had guys in the class that were not on the contract. Then we had guys friends coming in there because their friends were from wherever, wherever place, and it was a Hollywood, whatever. Then we
Mm-hmm.
had football players coming in there, models coming in there, people who had no desire to be in this thing.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So as you guys, now I'm not lying to you, man. So you would sit there and be like, okay, this guy, he's six, whatever, or she's built like this, boobs, blah 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 blah. But she could give a flying fart about. what a hip toss is. She's just there
Mm-hmm.
Right.
because she gets to go to the beach.
Yep.
So we had to get in there and make those guys look good.
Mm.
When we got to FCW, I'm telling you, this is what it was.
It's
No
horrible.
knock on TJ Wilson. I'm cool with him. No knock on Natty. I'm cool. I was on the road with her. I'm gonna tell you about the road stories, guys. I was on the road too, man. Yes, sir. I got a chance to
Mm-hmm.
roll. Well, let me back up before FCW. So before FCW, um, myself, Vladimir, Kofi, Natty, we were all riding together. So we did house show loops together.
Mm-hmm.
We flew together. We flew coast to coast together. So I got a chance to ride. I got a chance to do my to see a lot of what happens there.
Mm-hmm.
So we did all that, and then all of a sudden we had to move to Florida. So let's move forward. We get to Florida. So when we got to Florida, they had already had who they had their basic Florida crew
Mm-hmm.
that they wanted to highlight. So they got to get the shine all the time. Then started plugging us in there, get however you want to get in there. Find a spot, um, work with Rose, do all that stuff, work with him on the
Mm-hmm.
promos, the characters, blah blah blah. So it took a while, man, because when we first got there, we always had to keep moving stuff, man. We had to keep going from this 5 rings to 2 rings to move stuff here, move stuff there. It's a bunch of just business while talent would come in and check us out like Jericho, Big Show, Batista, whoever else, because everybody lived in Tampa, so it was
Mm-hmm.
convenient. So we were there, and then we had the very first live TV show, um, which was I think it was 2008, 2008, and then we started our house. We came out. We came out. We left the bar. We left Brandon to
Mm-hmm.
go to Tampa. Um, we it wasn't a bad place, man. It's just the fact was you had 3 different. Not that none of us was over or
Yeah.
Mr. Experience, but you have to accept the fact that some guys were different levels than other guys.
Mm-hmm.
So um, for me, um, I wasn't told what directly they needed or wanted me to do or be. And then when I was told to be like this aggressive guy, um, you would hear different. You would go on the road and get told, okay, you're aggressive here, but you need, that looks like like you're hurting somebody. Well, I said, well,
Mm-hmm.
that's the point of it,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
What? Of course, that's what wrestling is.
Bro, the mind games, man. Like the little silly, the mind games they would play. Okay, you say, okay, well, if you want me to be a heel, then let me let me be a heel. But sometimes the guys who were already on TV didn't want to help other guys,
Right.
and we all know, and they know that. The same thing as we were told before you got a shot to go on the road.
Mm-hmm.
You were told the same thing. So when like I say, but Florida, even before I got released, man, it was a different ball game. You could see how it was all about self,
Mm-hmm.
and I know I'm not the only guy, former talent, to say that because it was the truth.
Yeah.
Um, Tampa was all about trying to become, trying to take all. It's like trying to take guys who don't really want. They just half-assing it.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can't stand that, man. So like it was kind of frustrating sometimes working with some guys because I'm like, damn, man, this guy like
Yep.
it was frustrating because I'm like, okay, well, I spent all this time I already been on the road, so that I'm trying to get this particular character I want to get over. I want
Mhm.
to get it over and get it going, or whether even if I was tagging with somebody.
Mhm.
But the fact is, so many different levels of, and it wasn't Dr. Tom's fault. Dr. Tom had some the beginners, and Steve Kerr had the other ones. So it wasn't their fault. It's the fact that you take all those people and throw them in there,
Mhm.
and none of 50% of them either even halfway care about even being there or want
Mhm.
to be, or want to be, and want to be part of this. So
I've heard that many times.
it's the
We've talked
truth.
about this.
Yep.
That WWE, they were focused on these people that they brought in that looked the part that they believed, but those
Yep.
people weren't wrestlers.
They didn't give a they
They
didn't
didn't give a damn about it.
they didn't give a damn, and I'll tell you why they didn't give a damn, man. I would sit there and write. Okay, so you saw this is my own eyeballs now. For the
Mhm.
people who had to like that's why I'm always cool with Beth Phoenix, because Beth Phoenix, she didn't the Vince didn't come after her. She had to go
Mhm.
after that, just like I did. So we had
Mhm.
to go to camp, beginners class, intermediate, advanced, then get your contract. So you had to work at a
Right.
job, then get signed.
Mhm.
Unlike other people, okay? Those guys would come there, man. It was like they half-ass wanted to give a crap about learning how to properly run the ropes.
Mhm.
So, but yet you're cute, so you get, or you're a cute female, or you're a jacked up dude, but so you get to be on, you get to know that the company came after you. See, that was one of
Mhm.
one of the things. See, when you do that, that attitude they brought there was, well, okay, well, they came after me. I didn't come after them.
Mhm.
Okay,
But what those people didn't realize is that the people like you that had the proper training that actually gave a shit about what was going on were
pretty
the ones
much.
that were making them look somewhat decent.
Yep.
See, now, yeah, see, I'm getting fired up just hearing it.
I got a lot of Rip Rogers in me, so
God,
hey,
yeah,
I'm just feeling, I'm just being cool right now, man, because I really want to. I was going to say some other stuff and say, well, let me just say it like this because I'm older now and I
Mhm.
understand now.
yeah.
Well, because if I would have had the knowledge I had now, then,
Mhm.
um, I probably would have just like, you know what? I don't want to go to I don't want to go to Florida. Just let me go.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Because it
I
seemed
definitely,
like. Go ahead.
yeah. Because as soon as I left Florida, man, I was, I mean, I went straight to Puerto Rico and then
Mhm.
to Japan. So the money was the I saw from my own eyeballs. I said, okay, I now see what they're talking about. Getting released is not a bad thing.
Mhm. It seemed like when Laurinaitis took over from Jim Ross, and then he shut OVW down, and he wanted to go to Florida as he wanted. He didn't care
He didn't give
about
a
what
damn.
OVW was,
He
what
did
they
not.
did, the talent.
Don't sugarcoat it. He didn't give a shit.
Yeah,
He
he
had
had
to bring people to Florida.
he wanted to bring everybody from everybody in that little bubble in Tampa.
Hmm.
And speaking of that, when we did the WrestleMania thing, that was a golly, man. You know, I can all that that's what's the word I'm looking for? This pompous bullshit. Okay,
Hmm.
um, from grown adults and thinking that you have to take it because you want to chase this dream and all this and all that. Nobody
Hmm.
wants to walk around on eggshells. Like I like walking around on eggshells. Like
Hmm.
some people in Tampa, it was cool for them because I guess they were over. But you have to try like and to have you try to come up with ways to try to like okay, well, what do you want me to do to get this guy over? Well, I would ask those questions, man. I would
Hmm.
hold on just a second.
Yeah, go ahead.
Excuse me, I blow my nose. Excuse me. I would ask these questions.
Hmm.
I would ask these questions. The questions I was taught to ask that when I got trained at OVW from Al Snow,
Hmm.
whose business is your business. You want to get over? How do you get over? You got to put somebody over. You got to do this. You got to do that. How do you do that? The same mentality we took there. We got there, and it's like you don't give a damn what I'm. You don't give a damn.
Mm-mm.
As God is my witness, I was like, you don't give a damn about. You just want to. You just want to show the. I'm just giving this as an example. The next Wildcat Jones, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So that was what that was. And if you complained, check this out. Now, if you complained, they will find a way to get rid of you. Um, when I was there, man, I saw it was like a whirlwind, brother. I'm not lying. It was like a whirlwind. I see hide and fire, hide and fire, hide and fire.
Crazy turnover rate. Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Oh man, oh man. Let me tell you about that, bro. Let me tell you about that. 1 minute you will see, uh, 1 minute you'll see two hot chicks.
Mm-hmm.
They almost look alike. The next minute they're gone. Um, the next week here comes another set of hot. The next week they're going. It's like it was a rotating door.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes when you were trying to spend time in the green room to get your characters over to Dusty Rose, sometimes you had to and wait in the pecking order, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Others had uh, priority over you, whether they had experience or not.
Wow.
So yeah, but overall the shows we had decent shows. Um, we had some who came there and they wanted to learn a few, but it was more of them who was just there because they knew that they were already an actor, already a
Mm-hmm.
former ball player. So taking all that and mixing that in with people like us, uh,
Just
it's
didn't
different,
work.
man. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
Almost makes you hate being there. Like you're just. It's not what they
that,
projected it to be. It's not what you worked hard for. It's.
So the mentality
can
that
I tell you
Al
something?
no. Oh
Can
yeah,
I
Yeah.
go
tell you
ahead.
something?
Yeah.
Our shows were on Thursday. I didn't say this. I never told too many people. I hadn't told too many. Well, I'm gonna tell you guys. Our shows were on Thursdays when we were there in 2008. I would be so glad when the show was over, so I could go back to my apartment and go watch Impact and watch Gail Kim and Awesome Kong.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Yeah.
not lying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We used to have to
Wow.
sit there and go over these. See, when we came from Louisville, we were already used to. You don't have to do all that calling it in the back. We knew what we
Mm-hmm.
needed to do. We got there. We would have to go sit there and go over the match verbatim that morning and go back over it again that afternoon and then the match.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
That shit drove me crazy, man. I hated it. I used to hate that because I was like, I had to work with Big Rob Terry.
Mm-hmm.
Great guy. I like Rob's cool, man. I was got along with him. It was Australia, I think. And of course I was gonna put Rob over, but it was so easy for me because I knew he was bigger than me, so I knew what to do with him. It was like,
Mm-hmm.
but it was like, so I had to get in the ring. We had to walk this thing through, trying to figure out what to do. Like, okay, I want him to not. I want him to block my reverse. So he had to show them that he could block the reverse, and we had to walk through like 2 or 3 times off a 3-minute match, man, and stuff like that, man. That was
Wow.
Just let me do the damn thing. I'm tired.
yeah, yeah. I'm telling you, I'm telling you, I'm telling you, man. So, but I do understand why they was to a degree why they were doing it to help the guys who didn't know,
Mm-hmm.
but the office too was giving us the office at that time. I think it was me. Um, Steve Lewington was there at the
Mm-hmm.
time too. Uh, Nemeth, Brad Green. Uh, a lot of us was there. During that particular time when they was like messing with us, man, just messing with us. This
Mm-hmm.
we're trying to have practice and we got to stop practice. to go move a ring somewhere on the other side of the building
Wow.
because before Steve Kerr could get everything situated, man. So yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot of like, and the thing was like, well, you got 45 of us guys jammed up in this place.
Mm-hmm.
Half of the guys don't give a shit
Mm-hmm.
because they got a Hollywood agent
Mm-hmm.
because they were in a movie with uh, Britney Spears. So
Mm-hmm.
that was that, you had to take all that, take that, and walk on eggshells. And I at some point I was like, okay, well I knew I'm not gonna keep walking on eggshells, man, because I'm like, well, doing my promos, right?
Mm-hmm.
So doing my promos, I had my partner name was Jay Nobles. So we was like this we both were ex-military, so we were doing like this black military militant gimmick. Not
Hmm.
necessarily a hate group, we just were black militants.
Mm-hmm.
And well, we weren't black militants, we just dressed like black militants. So we just wrestled aggressive. So um they get told, well, you can't use the shoulder breaker because if you it looked deadly, but if you ever mishandle the guy, you can shoot his shoulder. And well, of course I knew that, but the point of it is if he listens to me, I'm going
Mm-hmm.
to take care of him. That's the point of him listening to me, the heel, so
Mm-hmm.
he can sell my stuff, right?
So they're trying
So
to take the wrestling out of wrestling.
yes, yes. So nobody wanted to take the shoulder breaker from Hammond because they like. So I was like, oh no. I said, oh, this is right. So I said, well, they wanted me to come up with a finish. So well, no one's doing the shoulder breaker. All right. So I know it
And
looks
you
deadly.
don't ever see that anymore either.
Yeah, no, nope, no shoulder breaker. Indian deathlock, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Stuff I could really get into, but you just see when I was in Florida, right, to learn how to show them that I could do certain things. Well, I just couldn't just do it. I had to tell the story how to do it because if I would just put a hole in a guy, you have somebody like Finley saying, well, what did you do prior to that? You
Mm-hmm.
didn't tell me why you did what you did.
Hmm.
So, and trying to do that with someone that's a actor or actress that
Mm-hmm.
could give a shit about being there, and you got to get in there and carry them, make them, get them over, make them, elevate them, and
Man,
you
that,
and tried to
that
say, well, okay,
that's rough.
get them. Yes. So I think only maybe I think Dave Butunga was one of the guys who really got it, man. Um,
Hmm.
from MTV, Dave
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Butunga.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now I liked him, man. He came there when he got there. He wanted to learn this stuff, man.
that's
Mm-hmm.
awesome.
Yeah, but he didn't become the major star. But I tell you what, it didn't take him long to pick it up because he came there. He looked good. He looked like he worked out. He looked the part.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, um,
Oh yeah.
let's see, and what was it? Uh, yeah. So after that, after when and when what, once you realize, okay, well, they started calling people to the talent initiative,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because my
Hmm.
partner Ox got called, right? And we should have never broken up anyway. Damn. But um, Ox debut went on to ECW as Bam Neely.
Mm-hmm.
Remember Bam Neely? Ox,
Yep.
okay. Yeah. So um, it was kind of like sink or swim, man. That's what it was. They was like that was their way of like, okay, saying, okay, we got too many of you guys. We're gonna get you guys out of here. So we're gonna throw you on TV. Either you sink or swim.
That's
That's
ridiculous.
crazy.
Yeah, because I worked with Evan Bourne in practice. I didn't
Hmm.
realize Laura and I was setting that up like, well, which one we gonna do? So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, you don't realize at the time when you have those matches like that in practice, they are actually behind the scenes putting things together. They don't tell you.
Mm-hmm.
So
Wow.
sometimes you have to be the backdrop, like you and I, Brian, or me and you, Morty. One of us got to team up, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but the company has plans for you or you, but I'm just the backdrop as a tag partner to help to help shine you to get you there. You
Mm-hmm.
don't find that out until like 5 years later.
Yeah, they don't tell you that you're the Genetti,
Yes,
basically. Yeah,
hmm yeah,
that's ridiculous.
hmm
So I heard you mention Al Snow's advice. So
yes,
when you went to Japan or went down to the island,
hmm
um, did the advice that Al Snow gave you hold true there?
yeah, yes, yeah, yes, he did. Morty, I keep calling you Marty.
That's okay. That's my brother actually, Marty.
Marty. Okay. When I went to Puerto Rico, well, I took Rip's advice and Al Snow's advice because when I got to wait, thank you for talking about that. Okay, I need to really talk about this right here. When I was in Puerto Rico, right? Okay. At that time, I dyed my hair and put parts in and wanted. I was released already from the company, so I wanted to go try something new. So I went down to Puerto Rico, and I was I hadn't done a cycle, so I wasn't on the gas at the time. And when I went down to Puerto Rico, um, I didn't really start laying it in until
Mm-hmm.
later, really getting aggressive until later, because I always knew that I didn't want them to. When I first got there, one of the guys was telling me, "Hey man, watch some of your stuff. You can't find that Brody, man, Brody, Brody, Brody." And in my head, I'm thinking, well, um, I don't want you guys to think. I don't want you to try to Bruiser Brody
Mm-hmm.
me.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean that, but I also say this to God for real, like God, I'm not gonna have you guys Bruiser Brody me.
Mm-hmm.
Now check this out.
Mm.
The same shower, the same building that he died in, I took a shower in the same shower when I was working there. So in Bayamon. So drew good money. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes, sir. So when I got to Puerto Rico, I was by myself, man. So I had to be leery of
Oh yeah.
okay. Now even
Mm-hmm.
though I was a luchador, gringo luchador there, uh, I still had to watch my back
Mm-hmm.
inside the ring and outside. Okay, so uh, you have to be smart and take care of yourself, your own business, like Al Snow was said. He said
Hmm.
because when you leave here, I'm starting to act like him now. When you leave in this area and go to other areas, you're going to see how they're going to test you like this or test you like that. Now, inside the ring or outside the ring. When I say test you to see if you how far they can how far they can go with you because
Mm-hmm.
you're on the island or you over here in Japan. So um, understanding what type of match you have and understand what the business of it is, knowing what the purpose of it is, and understanding like you coming from the states, another territory, coming over here to Puerto Rico, another
Mm-hmm.
territory. So you got to get yourself over. How do you get yourself over? Get their business over as safely as possible.
Yeah.
You may have to get a little, which I did, and that was one of the first things, my first mistake. I had never gotten color before, so when I did do that, and Carlos saw, wow, you phew, you get plenty of you get colored juice all over the place. See, in Puerto Rico, you can and bleed and go all over the place and go fight outside, inside, outside the bar, fight, 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 still sell, 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 sell.
Wow.
Ask Rip Rogers, he'll tell you. That's what I learned. So when I got there in Puerto Rico myself and making money there, um,
Mm-hmm.
I started learn. I learned okay, uh, okay, I gave myself a little bit too much. because I got too much red color on the floor.
Mhm.
So then when one of the guys, Mr. Jovica, one of Carlos's guys, said, "Hey Evans, a little bit too much, too much, too much." That was your first time? I'm thinking, well, you didn't ask me before the match. You didn't ask me how much. You didn't ask me. It wasn't my first time ever using a blade.
Yeah.
So no, I don't know how much color I'm going to give you on the floor. So that's what he said to me, something about Brody, and I was like,
I'm out.
mm, okay. So no more me getting you color every no. Then you want, and then you got to pay me. See, so I'm not going to come down here and spill all my blood on the floor. You don't pay me my green back. Like pay me the green. So that's why he mentioned to me what he said about Brody, and I was like, oh, okay. Let me just be this bad guy, be this heel, and still watch my back down here because it's true. They threw stuff. You guys been to Puerto Rico?
Mm-mm.
No, I've
Okay.
never been.
Well, they sling those rocks. Yeah, pow upside the head. Those guys. Yes,
Mm,
that's true. Yes. So the heels, you get it. The heels there, the fans, they still throw things at you. So
wow.
yeah, and there's no lie about that, man. And um, but see, it's a little bit easier now because a lot of the the, the Puerto Rican heels work with the Gringo heels.
Mhm.
So the American bad guys work with the Puerto Rican bad guys. So we have to ride together. So we have the same kayfabe locker rooms.
Right.
Uh, that's cool about what Carlos Colon was doing there at the time. But no. Um, so after we got through that, and I was able to relax, I'm like, okay, uh, I had to learn. I was like, if I come in here and like really beat the shit out somebody, I mean, working wise,
Mhm.
they're gonna love that. So that means I got to keep producing that.
Mhm.
So either I'm gonna have to start acting like him, like because I just knew that in my mind. I was like, well, I watched Brody. I liked watching Brody. I was scared of him as a kid. Um,
Mhm.
but when I got into the business, I knew that that was kind of not like him, but the work ability,
Mhm.
the drawing ability, because the position they gave him. So it was kind of like the position Carlos Colon was trying to give me um, to get his guys over. But at the same time, that meant that I was gonna get this crap kicked out of me a lot, you know.
Mhm.
Um, so some of those guys still had ill will towards guys from the past, man. So
Yeah.
simply because we're Puerto Rican, and you still American, we all Americans, Puerto Rican American, American Puerto Ricans, but y'all still gringos, and we still down here on this island, okay?
Mhm.
So you still had to learn that, and even when you go to the airport, man, go to the airport. As a luchador, man, people still remember
Mhm.
from the '80s, and they still talk about certain things. And as you coming through there, a new guy,
Hmm. Wow.
yeah, man. So, but
That's crazy.
yeah, I mean, just mention about this what you said about was as advice from Al.
Mhm.
And when I went to Japan, I was there with Steve Carino,
Okay.
and basically, if anyone's rough with you, you can get rough with them back. But at the end of the day, you can let them beat the crap out themselves. You don't have to do this. So you don't have to get there and go toe to
Mhm.
toe with this guy. You know what you can do? Give him the
What?
middle finger, get your bag, and walk out of the ring.
Yeah.
You sure can.
Mhm.
You sure can. And you can be man enough to do it. You don't have to stand there and fight this person. No. The business is to get you over. But if you're going to do all this, so this is what I didn't have that problem, but thankfully from Al's training, Rip's training,
Mhm.
I was prepared just in
Wow.
case. Yeah, just
It's
in case.
always a good thing. Always a good thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So
always a good thing.
it seems like you were a very well traveled. wrestler. You got a lot of knowledge. You got to go to Puerto Rico. Got to go to Japan. You got be with WWE for a little bit. You got to learn from the greatest minds in wrestling. You're a very fortunate opportunity. What advice would you give anybody that's trying to get into professional wrestling? Because you've seen it from all you've seen it from all over the place.
Yeah. A couple of things. Well, first, one of the first things. Well, let me do this right here. First thing, I would tell anybody, get this book.
Yeah.
You guys got this book?
I
Yes.
do. Yep.
Yes, we do.
Yeah. And take it and do that, and highlight it, and yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's real. You guys know. This is one of the first things I would tell someone if they're going to get into the business of pro wrestling. Get this book,
Yep.
Rip Rogers. Get this book, please. I need to tell you. Well, I need to tell you this right here. I never understood what a defense. I never understood why a heel pins a person like a heel to break his own pin count to keep the heat on himself. I never, ever, ever understood that when I saw it done until I read Rip's book.
There
So
you go.
guess what? Guess what you don't see guys doing in matches now? You don't see guys and girls protecting the pin count. They get their stuff in. They don't cheat. They don't grab the tights. They don't break the pin. They don't put the foot on the ropes. You keep the heat on yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So so uh, but one of the first things. Get Rip's book, Rip Rogers' book on pro wrestling.
Oh yeah.
That's one of the first things. Secondly, uh, depending on where you live, what country or state, and as they all say, find yourself a good school. Now, just because someone was on television doing a million spots and cool moves, that does not mean that they know what they're doing. Um, Anybody can teach you to do moves
Mm-hmm.
and flips and this stuff to do, but you want to get a fundamental school, man. And honestly, only a small places of quality places that schools that will train you about this business, and the trainers themselves that are still able to get in the ring and show you how to do things, not just sit on the outside and tell you
Mm-hmm.
to do this and do that, but they can get in there and go step by step with you. So you have to find yourself a good school,
Mhm.
not just somebody that has a ring and a
Mm-hmm.
place to practice the moonsault in. Find someone that can teach you how to get mileage out of a headlock and still find somebody that can tell you how to find a school where they can teach you how to apply holds more than just one way.
Mm-hmm.
Different variations of a hold, how to get out of a hold, how to counter what the counter hold is, how to you have to be creative.
Absolutely.
Like yeah,
Yeah.
other than just jumping off the mat and flying off the ring, man. Um, so as of right now, I would say probably Dr. Tom's school.
I was about to say Dr. Tom's in Knoxville. Absolutely. That's a amazing school to go to.
Yeah, Dr. Tom. And you got a few guys on the West Coast, but they were trained by old school guys. So um, a few guys from OVW and I believe have some schools.
Mm-hmm.
I would say get a hold of Pat Buck. Um,
Yep.
uh, but
Johnny Jeter has a school out
yes,
on.
yeah, Johnny Jeter, yeah. Jeter has a school in Cali, I think. Yeah,
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Jeter and if someone could, I mean, I wish Seth Skyfire would have had a school.
Oh
Uh,
man, Seth Skyfire. That is one of my favorites.
yeah, man, I like man. Seth Sky, he made me like Seth Skyfire made me. He did me the greatest favor. He put the well, he gave helped me put the TV title on me.
Mm-hmm.
Made me like a monster. Let me beat him up. Um, and I always got number love for Seth, man. And I always wish that I always wanted him to have a school or have been an agent at least.
Oh yeah.
Hmm.
Like yeah. Like him and Mondo, you know, uh, those type. He's Jeter and I mean Jeter, Skyfire, Mondo. If those guys could have a school, man, um, or become producers or agents,
Hmm.
if you will. Um, but as of right now, I would say if he could, it would be Al Snow or either Dr. Tom. Um,
Absolutely.
and for the females, Damian Adams. He's really good with females.
That's,
Up in Jersey, I think it's up in Jersey.
I think so.
Yeah, he's really good with. He trains the girls the right way so they can, when it's time for them to actually do the business or do the work, they can do it like guys and get it done.
Hmm.
Right on.
Hmm.
Yeah. For
Yes,
sure.
sir.
Charles, it has been an absolute pleasure and an honor tonight. I know we've been trying to do this for a while, and I'm glad that we got it done. I love listening. I could listen to you talk all night. I'm very happy that you came on and we got to tell some of your story. Uh,
Yes.
Thank you for what you've done for professional wrestling and what you continue to do.
Yes.
I do greatly appreciate for us being in Seymour, Indiana. We got to see you before the rest of the world got to see you going to OVW shows, and I just want to say thank you for coming on tonight.
Thank you so much.
Thank you guys for having me.
Let's do it again sometime.
We will. We will.
Awesome. Have a great night.
You too, man. God bless, guys.
Thank you.
Hey everybody, it's Morty.
It's Brian.
And thank you for watching today's episode of Developmentally Speaking.
If you could, please click that subscribe button.
And don't forget to punch that bell icon so you can get notified whenever we go live or drop a new video every Monday. Well, thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you on the next
Developmentally speaking.